Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained?
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the special meeting of the Board of Education minutes dated September 28th, 2020 as presented.
Pat Vilmer, second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, we will move on to item number 6 on the agenda, which is recognitions. The first recognition we have is the September Rotary Student of the Month, Patrick Riley. And Patrick is being recognized as the September Rotary Student of the Month. Patrick certainly deserves the recognition as an active and valuable member of our student body for his extracurricular activities and his willingness to help out on any project. Patrick will be recognized at the Rotary Luncheon at a date and time to be determined. Patrick was interviewed and photographed for the local newspaper, and the Rotary Club honored Patrick with a gift and a lawn sign. On behalf of the Board of Education, Patrick, please come up and accept a well-deserved gift and a certificate on your achievements. Photo for mom. Congratulations. Beth, thank you.
So that you heard is being recorded, so you can go back and tune into it later, okay? Congratulations, Patrick.
The next recognition we have is a community recognition, and they could not be with us tonight. It is for Ms. Darlene Brash and Katie Bike from Play and Learn. We presented them with a plaque. And it said the Thomaston Board of Education would like to recognize Ms. Brash and Ms. Bike from Play and Learn. We would like to recognize Play and Learn for the steadfast efforts to support Thomaston Public Schools' hybrid model of instruction student cohorting system during the COVID-19 pandemic. We honor Play and Learn for extending Thomaston Public Schools student cohorts to their rostering of daycare and after-school care, and for their support of students on remote learning days. Thank you to all at Play and Learn.
And we will bring that plaque as well as a plaque to the people that we've honored in August and September.
So thank you. Patrick and family, I just want you to know, feel free to leave if you don't want to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Let's see. Presentations, we have none tonight. Do we have a student representatives report? I believe we have McKenna and Bella on the Zoom meeting. I'm not sure if Caesar's there.
Yeah, we are here. I don't know if Caesar's here.
I can just read his part though.
Okay.
Okay. So for academics, Thomaston High School completed the PSATs and the SATs on Wednesday, October 14th, with the results to come in on November 4th. The high school came in for half a day to take the College Board test and were released at noon. The science department has also been in contact with Jackson Laboratories in Hartford, Connecticut, where students may sign up to view an open house on their website.
And for clubs, ever since we started the hybrid model, we've had some great progress within the clubs at THS. Interact had its first meeting in person on Tuesday, October 13th, where they discussed adopting a club constitution, directly with the Rotary Club of Thomaston. NHS is in the works of planning the first academic all-star awards of the school year for November 5th or 6th, and the student councils plan a spirit week in preparation for homecoming on October 24th. Due to homecoming being canceled, the club decided to extend Spirit Week, continuing it onto this coming week, as well as in preparation for the rescheduled dance, which is on Friday, October 23rd.
For athletics, the fall season has been up and running since September. Since the beginning of October, each team has had their first few games and meets. Both soccer teams and the field hockey team have had their senior night as well. Currently, the field hockey team is 6-0 with our match day. We had a game today. The girls soccer team is currently 4-1 with their next game was on October 16th, which was not rained out. The boys soccer team is currently holding a record of 2-1, which they had their most recent game at Housatonic on October 16th. Cross country has had an excellent start to the season as well, with the girls cross country team having won 4 out of 4 of their whole meets. Cross country boys have been doing well, as one of their seniors, Joe Buchanan, has been placing first in a couple of their meets as well.
And the only special event that we're recognizing right now that we're doing is homecoming, which was originally planned for October 16th, last Friday, but since it got rained out, we're now doing it this Friday on October 23rd, which is going to be social distance and all that fun stuff. And that's all.
Thank you, McKenna and Isabella. Next, we have the chairperson's report, and the first item is just notification of the welcome back gathering for the new employees of Thomaston Public Schools, which was held tonight outside at the front entrance of the high school. Also, under the chairperson's report, we have election day facility use request, which the town had requested to initially use the high school for the election. When Francine had asked them to submit the formal request, it ended up coming in that they wanted to use the center school, and it wasn't just for election day, it was for the day before for setup, election day, and then the day after. So that request was denied, and I don't know if you want to add anything else.
No, we followed typical protocol and asked for them to put it in writing, and when they did, then we were able to realize exactly how much time they needed, and it would definitely have interfered with instruction.
Okay. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
The beginning of my report is mostly correspondence. You'll see that there are some letters there that were our response to public comment the last time we met. But for the most part, you see some letters about residency and some newsletters that I've received from different organizations that work with us. I do want to highlight one of the letters, which was a letter of commendation for Mrs. LaPlante. Mrs. LaPlante is our guidance secretary at the high school, and she was put in charge of streamlining, organizing, and making consistent across the 3 buildings our student registration process. And she trained our secretaries most recently on the process. And I felt that it was necessary to put in writing how much we appreciated what she did. That extra work really will help our parents, our new parents, parents of our preschoolers and kindergartners. So that was a special thank you. I also want to point out under my correspondence that there's a message regarding JT et al. Versus de Blasio, which is a class action complaint. And that is what is going to be discussed at our first executive session tonight. It's a federal case. It had originally started in New York and then became a class action case that had to do with special education and the COVID closure of schools. So you'll hear about that from the attorney that KERMA is providing for us. KERMA is our liability insurer, and because it's a class action suit, they're providing that information and that representation to us, and we'll get some information tonight. The other information that you see there are newsletters and other sorts of communications from the state and other organizations that are related to schools. Under reports, we have our administrator's report, and we also have an enhanced enrollment report. So on our enrollment report, we now will be showing how many of our students are distance learners, the true opt-out students. We're not counting students who are in quarantine. We're counting only the students whose parents have said, I do not want my children to come to school in person. So that we'll have an understanding, an idea of how many students are out. We will be updating this the first of every month. However, positive direction for us. So we started off with a count of 136 opt-out students across the district, and we're down to, if I'm remembering correctly, Jessica, 111? 111 students, even after the COVID positive case on Thursday last week. So that's very exciting to know that the work that we're doing is bringing confidence to our parents, and that parents are feeling good about sending their children back to school in person. But like I said, you'll get that as part of your enrollment report until the opt-out option is gone. And we have the distance learning report, an update on the work that we have been doing insofar as instructional experience for distance learners. And then we have a class size report. This was a question that was brought up at the last board meeting. And it was also brought to our attention by a parent through public comment. So class sizes that reached a size that could not be considered acceptable under the guidelines of keeping students socially distanced were noted in this report, and you will know from that report where they were moved to. Some classes rosters were split, others classes were moved just to a larger space and kept intact as a roster. Contracts, we're in that season of updating contracts and renewing contracts, so you have a list there of what has been updated. Under fundraisers, we have just the one, and then we have a list of new hires, transfers, new assignments, retirements, resignations, and stipends. And I ask that under that component of my report that the board vote to acknowledge my notification of this dimension of personnel, specifically the new hires, transfers, retirements, resignations, and stipends per policy 4112 and 4212.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the superintendent's notification of personnel, specifically new hires, transfers, retirements, resignations, renewals, stipends per policy 4112, 4212, personnel, certified, non-certified, appointed, and conditions of employment as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. We have no family medical leave requests at this time. We have no new interns or student teachers at this time. You were introduced to some last month and also earlier today at the welcome meet and greet. We have no field trips that are out of state at this time, and we also have no request to sell or dispose of any books or equipment. So my report is complete. I have a quick question. Is there any update on the 8th and 9th grade spring trip to Washington, D.C.? Is that still planned?
I don't have an update to that, but I can get one.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have committee reports. Do we have an update from the ad hoc committee?
We do. We do. Should I unmute myself? Is it okay if I do that? Or should I speak?
I'll mute me. How's that?
That sounds good. And then Stacy's going to start the presentation. Okay, so the purpose of our committee, our ad hoc committee, was to look at and to focus in on an area that the committee chose to for successful achievement. So these are in front of you, the committee members. Dave was the chair, Sarah, Roxy, Matt, myself, and Superintendent of Schools were the members. Can go to the next slide. we had 2 meetings, one at the end of September and one at the beginning of October. And one of our first things that we put together was the vision for the committee. So I'll read that to you. In alignment with our 5-year plan, Thomaston Board of Education will prioritize math student achievement in grades 4 through 6 in order to foster educational excellence in our schools. And this vision was created by all of us. We kind of had some conversations around what areas we wanted to look at. And along with some of my suggestions, we decided to focus in on center school math achievement. Math has been an area that we've seen some decline in the last couple of years. So we want to take a look at why that is and what we can do to move forward in the positive direction with our students. So the first thing we did was to, or the first thing I did was to look at the data. So is this where I can share my screen? Okay. So I took a look at our Smarter Balance scores for the center schools. So in front of you, you'll see the 2018, 2019 scores for Smarter Balance math. And we have the levels of achievement that we're looking to reach are levels 3 and 4. On the bottom here, there's a summary of what at or above standard represents, which is about 42% for grade 4 in that year. Grade 5 was 44% of students, and grade 6 was 32% of students. And that is a combination of levels 3 and 4, and that's where we want to be. The next thing that we looked at was the iReady math diagnostic. And I just want to talk a little bit about the diagnostic. I know that the teachers sent home from Black Rock and Center School the reading and the math reports for each of their students Friday. Some sent it out today. And I know that some distance learning parents haven't received it, but it's on the system. So we'll have to send them a link as to how they can retrieve that. But these are the scores for our diagnostic, and the diagnostic is meant to drive instruction. It is not meant to penalize kids for being at a certain level. So when we look at the 3 tiers, I want you to keep that in the forefront of your mind. Tier 1 is where we want students to be. It means that they are on grade level and they've mastered for 4th grade all of the 3rd grade standards. And these are all Connecticut standards, by the way, Connecticut state standards. And the iReady test is a criterion reference test. In other words, it is based on the criteria of standards that Connecticut has set forth. It's not a norm reference test like some of these tests are national tests where they're looking at standards from all over the country. This is a criteria reference test. So it is really for our state and our kids. And then tier 2 is the level where they're saying they missed one or perhaps more than one domain, and there's 4 domains in the math categories. So out of the 4, we had, at least that percentage miss one of them. And then tier 2 missed 2 or more. So they are the students that are considered, where we really need to move them up, probably at least a year to 2 years behind. So that's kind of what the tiers represent. Now, the other thing I want to share with parents is that iReady is a very, I want to say aggressive, but I guess I can use the word aggressive diagnostic. In other words, if they missed one domain, it knocked them out of the tier. So just from that one, let's say geometry area, it knocked them from tier 1 to tier 2. So when we look at these numbers, our kids, don't be, don't be scared. It really isn't as bad as it looks. It just is that the iReady test is they really want to make sure that all the standards are hit because they estimate with their algorithms and their statistical models that students who are in the tier 1 category will be the students that will achieve a 3 or a 4 on the Smarter Balance test. So they want to make sure that all those standards are hit or mastered by the students. So that's what those numbers mean. The other thing I want to share is that they also have a beginning of the year view, which means this student has pretty much mastered all of the, let's say a 4th grader, all of the 3rd grade standards, and maybe they missed one domain and they are ready to access all of the grade 4 curriculum. And when we look at that view in the iReady report, tier 1 for grade 4 jumps up to 58%. So that's the difference in the numbers. I want you to understand that we are really being aggressive with getting to the 3 and 4s on Smarter Balanced. But our kids are really doing, especially with the next slide that I'm going to show you, with being out of school for 6 months and having a lot of the trauma, educational trauma that they've had, they really came back in doing fairly well. We, at 5th grade, tier 1 is 67% in the beginning of the year, and at 6th grade, it's 61%. So the numbers in front of you are really the numbers that we're looking at to achieve the highest level of excellence on the Smarter Balance. Okay, so now we can go to the next slide. I can stop presenting. Stacy will pick it up from there. So after looking at the data while she brings that up, we decided on certain percentages on student growth. So and these were a couple of things that I'd like you to consider. And even though this slide might seem like an oxymoron where it says no excuses, but things to consider, I did that on purpose because I think we need to just live in reality and know that we did have a summer and COVID slide with students being out of school for 6 months. The hybrid learning model is definitely hurting our pacing in our curriculum. We obviously can't teach as much to the students that we like when we're only in school, at first only 2 days with one cohort, 2 with the other, and now the 4 days, we're certainly behind in. And the way we're going to address that is we're going to focus on the priority state standards. So that's what has been the advice coming from the state, that in order to still maintain that level of excellence with our kids, we're going to focus on the priority state standards. So that's been a discussion with our teachers. And then of course the distance learners, we really, as much as we don't have the control over their instruction and what they're doing at home. So that's definitely something else to consider. So next slide. And then knowing that we came up with this goal together. And just a little background on the projected growth scores. So the projected growth scores are given to us by this iReady program, and it is done by their statistical analytical algorithms, lots of mathematics involved in these programs, and they decide based on the age of the child, the mastery level of the child, what they're ready to access in the curriculum. All of those numbers are put together and they come up with a projected growth score that this student should hit in January. And then they have another one when they take the January test that they should achieve in June or in May when we give it. So we decided on for grade 4 that 20% of students in grade 4 will achieve their projected growth scores as measured by the iReady diagnostic test by January 2021. And then in May, that 50% of students in grade 4 would achieve their growth scores as measured by the diagnostic in May of 2021. So that was our goal for grade 4. Similarly, in grade 5, we went up a bit because our 5th graders started higher on the tier 1 level. So we decided to go challenge them a little more. 30% of our students in grade 5 will achieve their projected growth score, and 50% of students in grade 5 will achieve it by May of 2021. And in grade 6, went a little higher on the May measurement for them, but 30% for grade 6 for the January 2021, and 60% of students for grade 6 will achieve their growth scores in May of 2021. One in January, one in May. There's one more slide. So the theory of action, how are we going to do this? How do we intend on achieving our goals? So the number one thing we're going to do is we're going to target our intervention groups, students who are in tier 2 and tier 3. All of the interventionists at Center School and Black Rock already have their schedules aligned for similar skilled groups so that they can focus on the areas and the domains that the students are lacking. So that's number one. And that also includes our IEP students as well for the resource rooms. Parent involvement, I sent out a messenger earlier this evening. I am going to have parent meetings for Black Rock first and then Center School on these iReady reports that were sent home. So parents who are interested in really delving in and understanding what the levels, where their students are and where they can get better. We're going to discuss the report so that they understand that this diagnostic is not to penalize students, but it is to help drive the instruction of the teachers based on what students know and what they don't know. So it's not a test, it's a diagnostic, and it helps us to teach kids where they are. So we're going to have those discussions over Google Meet, first with Black Rock and then with Center School parents who'd like to come to the meetings, and those links will be going out shortly. The next thing we're going to do at Center School, because that's where our goals are focused in on, is we have an incentive program going. We are going to have students in each grade level choose an incentive that they'd like to work for. And what they're going to do is on the iReady program, there is a practice skill platform where they actually have lessons tailored to their standards that they were low on. So for example, if a student was not doing well on geometry or number sense, the MyPaths program that the district paid for creates specialized lessons for that student. And so as they're practicing and mastering, they go up in levels, almost like a video game. And as they do that, we have goals at Center School that we're going to be posting in the cafeteria. And once the grade level achieves their goals, they're going to receive their incentive. I heard on Friday that grade 5 has chosen popcorn and a movie in the auditorium. So that has been their choice. I haven't heard from grade 4 or grade 6 yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming. So we're really excited about that incentive program. Differentiation in the classroom is something that I'm going to be working on, because not only do we want to target the students who need intervention, but we also want to target those students who are in tier 1, who for some of them are actually above grade level. And so what enrichment are we providing those students that will continue to move them forward and not hold them back. So we need to differentiate in our classrooms so that all students are moving forward. So I'll be working on that with teachers and tier 1 instruction. And then the IEP student focus as well, our IEP students who will also be working with their teachers. They will have focus groups very similar to the interventionists. So we're going to kind of attack this from all different ways, and in hopes that all of this will drive our students to master these standards and to continue to grow and to show our community that we care about achievement and success and excellence. So that's our goal. Next slide. So I'd like to propose to the board that they accept and approve the Ad Hoc Achievement Committee vision and our goals as presented by the Ad Hoc Committee from earlier reference names, and identify both as evidence that the board clearly communicates the goals and expectations for the district, staff, and students with an emphasis on high achievement for all students in the district.
Mrs. Rockett-Final, I make a motion to accept and approve the Ad Hoc Achievement Committee vision and goals as presented for the Ad Hoc Committee, and identify both as evidence that the board clearly communicates the goals and expectations for the district staff and students with an emphasis on high achievement for all students in the district.
Matt Vernon, second.
If you could just say that, who motioned and seconded a little louder, we didn't really hear that very well.
So Freckle is not the same for a 6th grader? Yes, so it's not the same, but we were able to, with some maneuvering, I was able to get iReady to give me 6th grade for free this year because I told her about our program and what we're focusing on. And she said she would give it to us for free as long as next year we buy it. So they will have both. 6th grade will have access to Freckle and to their My Paths lessons. Yes. Yes. Everything's up. Yeah. No, we just got it approved like a couple of days ago. So they took the diagnostic on iReady, but now, yeah. Yes. You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Wish us luck.
We can't really hear that, just so you know.
You hear us now? How about now?
Much better.
Okay. We have a report from the Budget Committee.
Yes, I'll report if no one else is willing or interested. Okay. The business manager's report was shared during the budget audit committee meeting on Wednesday, 2 weeks ago. And included in that report was information about our current year's budget, a grant report that runs from the tail end of last year into the end of the 21-22 school year, and then transfers, which there were none. And then the overall expenditures for the month of September, which were $1,611,507.13. And the business manager submits this report and asks that the board accept and approve his report per policy 3432 and 3433.
This is Roxy Finer. I make a motion to accept and approve the business and finance report and expenditures per policy 3432, 3433, business non-instructional operations, budget and expense report, annual financial statement as presented.
Matt, one more second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Next, we have Policy Committee update. We met tonight earlier, and we had two presentations, one from Jessica, the Director of Curriculum, regarding CAPE Policy 4115.01. At this point, there's no policy changes to that. We also had a presentation from Andrea Peters, the Director of Pupil Services, Title IX Policy 4000.1 and CAPE Policy 5145.5, also Title IX. And the Policy Committee is recommending that those two policies go to a first read at the next meeting. We also had a discussion on Policy 0200, which basically adds to the board's 5-year plan the recommendations from the ad hoc committee that you heard this evening. So we are recommending that go to a first read next month as well. We had no first reads. Policy 6159 was a second read, and that's going to be moved to an action item at next month's meeting. We have no action items tonight from the policy committee.
Did the other items not get discussed?
No, we did. They did get discussed. I'm sorry. Let's see. Agenda item 11.3.2.2 was just the policies for the Board of Education members regarding volunteering for school sports and community events. With the conflicts of interest and code of ethics, and there are no conflicts, and board members are able to volunteer as long as they are not paid for any of their time. And the other item, agenda 11.3.2.3, Francine just quickly had gone over some of the CAPE sample bylaws on electronic board meetings. Since we've been having our virtual meetings, there was not really any.
There's a recommended, CAPE is recommending a change in bylaws, but at this time, our bylaws are fine for electronic meetings. However, if we were to finally come to a resting place as to what the best setup is for the meetings, and we want to change it, then we at least have a sample policy to move back to, but no changes asked at this time.
Thank you.
And we have our COVID posters.
Oh, yes. Are those on the presentation tonight? I'm not sure because I'm not looking at the Zoom meeting, but
I don't think that they're on the presentation.
Francine had presented us with our COVID-19 public event posters, which will be displayed when you enter the meetings here, any of the school public events or activities.
They've been made available to all the administrators.
Okay. Any questions for the policy committee? Okay. Can we have a motion?
We have already adjusted the amended agenda.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Dave. Okay, let's see.
All right, no problem.
Thanks.
The,
Yeah, item 12. Next.
yes, mass. As most people probably know, the Black Rock School and the Center School currently have mask breaks for students. And Principal Bernier even put out rented a tent.
I just have a quick question before we continue this. I got an email from Gianni and Perucci. They seem to be taking care of it. Why are we discussing it?
They haven't.
I know, but why are we stepping on their toes? They're supposed to be taking care of it.
Let me finish, and then you can bash it all you want.
I mean, but we're kind of overstepping our bounds because they literally said that.
We're in charge, right? You're the Board of Education. You got elected to make sure that
I know,
doesn't
but
happen here.
the
We did
teachers,
ask them at the September meeting, Frank, and they haven't giving us. an
Okay,
email.
okay, I wrote an email, it took me a week to get an answer back about use of space and some of the very simple items. Jen Nolan on Thursday sent out an email. And it was supposed to be addressed on Friday. We still have not gotten a response from it. So if they're not going to respond to it, Frank, we are the Board of Education, and we are not overstepping our bounds to add a little direction to the administrators.
We're still
that
asking
we
you to
oversee.
do it.
Okay, so most schools in our area, high schools, actually all of them that I know of, have math breaks set up for their students. If you are a C group lunch person, you will sit in your classroom or in a classroom 7:20 in the morning to 12:20 before you go to lunch. And that's your first opportunity to get a breath of air without a mask on in this school. 5 hours is a long time. Per addendum 11 from the State Board of Education and the State Department of Public Health dated 8/31/20 says the following: to develop and communicate a consistent policy and schedule to address mask breaks throughout the day, outdoors if possible, or indoors in large areas where students can appropriately distance, and the protocols for the removal of masks for meals and snacks so that students and staff know what to expect and when to expect it so they can plan accordingly. 5 hours is a long time. Getting no response from the administrators of our school to legitimate emails from the Board of Education is not acceptable. At this time, I would like to make a motion to direct our administrators to set forth a consistent policy and schedule for mask breaks by the end of the week.
Second.
Sarah Ethier, I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
The discussion is, I will not say that we need to order them to do it.
I would like to speak. I received an update this morning from Gianni, who said that other than a couple of teams that he needs to meet with today and tomorrow, the mask break schedule is nearly complete. He just needs to finish working with the teams that he hasn't met with until, he won't be able to meet with them until tomorrow. So, and Mr. Frucci also sent me an email saying, yes, we're on it. So, not anticipating this at all, Dave. I was just they're in the groove, they're doing their job. This is not me giving you an update because I anticipated you asking. It was rather a surprise, and they do not need to be directed because they are working on it. They're working on it right now. And to say that there are 0 mask breaks, I will say that there's no mask break schedule that's formal, but there are mask breaks. I witness them every day. The students walk by my office multiple times a day. It may not be every teacher, it may not be every period, but there are mask breaks happening. So I want to be clear. It may not be a formal schedule, it may not be, group C at 8 o'clock every day, but there are groups of students who pass my own window every day and have been since the beginning of the school year, taking mask breaks, even in the rain, running in front of my window and going under the canopy. So I know mask breaks are happening, they're just maybe not happening at mass. And I know that the at mass schedule is coming and that they are working on it. So I would like to ask respectfully to not direct the administrators, as that is my job, to direct the administrators. And I don't feel a need to direct them because they're already working on it.
There was an email sent by a board member on Thursday. It said that we were going to have an answer tomorrow. That would be Friday. We waited all weekend. We waited today. I'm very happy that they sent you an email. That's great that you were apprised of it. But the rest of us were sitting there waiting. Okay, and I've got students, I've got parents who are counting on me to move this item. So
It was also brought up at the September meeting. It was discussed at the meeting, yes, it was, and that's why they've been working toward that end.
They've only been in school last week 3 days, and they're working on it. I mean, come on. This is a learning curve for everybody. They're
There's
figuring it
also a
out.
chain of command, and any parent who feels that they need to reach out and make a petition should start at the lowest part of that chain. You start with the teacher, then you go to the administrator, then you would come to me, and then you would go to the board. So to put upon a single board member is not fair to the process, because you're farther and farther away from the person who makes something happen.
I'm elected by people who want us to stay in accordance with state public health.
You should tell those people to come to a board meeting
Well,
You know,
and complain to the whole board, not just the one board member.
Or from around the board.
And honestly, it's the response time to board members that is at best troubling. Okay, it took a week for me to get an easy email saying, "Are we using the auditorium for classes?" It took a week. Why does it take a week? I have no idea. But we did not get a response from one of the board members' emails. We were told we're going to get a response on Friday. It didn't happen. You know, I'm sick of asking, okay? And I'm sick of waiting for email responses. And I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's anything that anybody would do in their job to make their bosses wait. In fact, you know, my job, I got to give an answer now. You know, that's the standard for my job. It's not okay. It's got to happen. The Department of Health wants, and it's not a requirement, but it's a strong suggestion. And so if you want me to back off rescind my motion, I will. But that being said, it's got to happen.
I'm telling you, it is happening. It is unfortunate that the timing of this scheduled meeting is juxtaposed to the timing of you not getting an email. If this had happened a week ago or a week ahead, you would not have had this opportunity. You would have had to take a different tact. I'm asking you not to use this moment as an opportunity to wield upon, as a board, someone who you should not be wielding upon. You should be wielding upon me if you are dissatisfied with the people that work below my rank. The motion should either be withdrawn or put upon me. But I am truly satisfied with the efforts that I'm seeing and the updates that I'm getting. I am sorry that you were not brought up to speed on it.
No board member was brought up to speed on it. Not just me. It's not a me problem. I'll rescind my motion, but I expect it to be done.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes, number 13.
Okay. Oh, number 13 is the member comment.
Yeah, it's asked that we start adding member comment to the agenda every month. It's very hard for members to ask questions. Sit there and think about something that happened a little while ago. To ask another follow-up question or something like that. It's also a chance for members to throw a shout out to people like Principal Bernier for the tent, which I think is fantastic. The sports teams, which are all off winning records, which for a small school like ours is fantastic, and that sort of thing. But really, it's just an opportunity for the board to talk and ask some questions that might come up or they might think about during the meeting, during the course of the meeting. I find that our meetings are very rubber stampish, and they really need to have a lot more discussion so that we don't end up with 42% of fourth graders a year or two behind in math, okay, which I think is appalling. Right, 9% are at the standard for where they should be. It's appalling. Okay, so I think we need to get a lot more engaged.
We're discussing member comment, right?
I think we need to get a lot more engaged.
Okay. I would love member comment.
I can talk whatever I want about, right? Because
but we're discussing if we're going to have member comment or not your comments. Member comment's great, but I think we should follow the same criteria as what we give to the public. A certain amount of time on your comments, so nobody's, because one of us could just stand up and start talking like a parent instead of a board member. So we could have as much comment as we want. I think we should follow the same as what the public has, because that's not fair to the public if they're have a certain time limit and we could stand up here for an hour and talk about the same subject.
Listen, God bless anybody who can talk for 5 minutes, but I think it should be added to the agenda. It's just a thing.
Our policy right now would treat each individual member as a member of the public because the policy and the bylaws treat the board. An individual board member is not the board. An individual board member is an individual. So they would be treated like a member of the public.
That's fine, just as long as we're not going to sit here for 2 hours, because all 9 of us could talk about the same subject and spend 3 hours on the same subject. That's all.
Well, maybe it's an important subject.
Well, just resolve them within 9 hours.
This is an item on the agenda. I didn't hear a motion. Okay.
Public comment, we can certainly add it to the future agendas, and we can put it under public comment section.
We used to have public comment at the very end of the meeting long ago, and it was open public comment, and it fell after the agenda. And what we found from the public that would make comments is that they were unable to comment on the agenda items, which is the rule in the policy, before we spoke about those items. They wanted their opinion heard before we took a vote or whatever action we were taking. So we moved public comment to the beginning of the meeting so that if anyone wanted to speak about an item on the agenda and they weren't one of the board members, they would have that opportunity before we take action. So right now we have public comment on the agenda. If you're asking to do a separate public comment for board members, that's different than what we already have. It's still going to be public comment. It's not special public comment, it's just more public comment. Okay. Which would mean we'd have to designate to the public, the non-board members, they'd have to understand that this is not for you anymore, which is not what our policy said.
But
So
how
we
do
might
we
want to
determine,
consider either changing our policy so that that allows it, but we should also contemplate looking at Robert's rules because we're only supposed to have discussions under a motion. We're not supposed to have discussions that are out in the air.
so that it wouldn't be fair to the public, because then how would we determine what the comment of board members making? If it's a public comment, it's not really a board member, it's a public comment. We're basically talking after the meeting. So do we open it back up to the public?
Well, that's the thing, is right now, if we have a public comment section, it's open to all public.
Right.
So if we have one at the beginning and one at the end, that doesn't stop someone we don't have any rule right now that would say, oh no, that's not your public comment, that's our public comment. We would have to create a policy that says, and we shall also have our own space for public comment. Otherwise, when we talk at the end of a meeting, someone else can get up and talk. Not that we don't want that, but it would be a second opportunity for
So
people to
then why don't we
speak.
just make member comment during public comment?
That could be as well. It's part of public
If
comment.
any
It's the same
member
rules.
has a comment, they can make it during public comment and be treated the same way as the public comment. I mean, we got to be fair.
But I'm thinking more like a follow-up, as of like, if you're sitting here thinking about something that was, addressed 20 minutes ago. It'd be nice to be able to have an opportunity for the members of the board to get clarification or have a follow-up question.
Can't you do that when you motion to adjourn any discussion? Can't you at that point?
Well, then the motion.
That way you have a motion, are you covered?
The motion is for adjournment, and so
You could have a section where you are soliciting agenda items for the next meeting.
that's another thing.
You could have that as a section. And then we would take recommendations and then it would be, we have a policy that would indicate that either by 2/3 the entire group or by a chairperson, I forget which, by chairperson's decision, that item could be added or excluded from the next agenda depending upon the reality of that item. It could be resolved by the time we have the next meeting, so it wouldn't be put on the agenda possibly. But that could be something where it wouldn't be a comment, it would be, I would like more information about, or I would like our personnel to include, or I would like the reports to have, as opposed to just an open comment, would be a request for information, which is a policy. And the board can request information through me from anyone. But it would have to go through me according to the policy.
Would there then be discussion on it before the vote, or it would just be presenting whatever we're looking for information on?
If it's open public comment, then there's no discussion.
No, I mean, like, if we put it and we're adding something to the next meeting's agenda technically.
You wouldn't talk about it until the next
We
meeting.
wouldn't talk about it till,
You
okay,
are correct, yes. Because you're not,
we make notes and then.
it's not on the agenda. Public comment should not be about something that isn't on the agenda. That's the rule. Again, that's another policy we would have to change to allow for that.
I think if we're preparing well for these meetings, then we're prepared to discuss the items that are on the agenda when they're presented. So we do not need to be adding future agendas to other upcoming meetings or public comment sessions at the end of it.
So Roxy, would you have, if the board member has a request for an agenda item, just have them continue to email Francine and ask it to be added to the agenda?
Yes, email either me or the chair.
Well, I still think a board member should be able to comment during public comment as a parent, as a non-board member. I mean, I don't know if anybody realized that, but we should be able to do that.
Yes, you can.
Okay. But we still follow that same guidelines,
Yes.
how long a subject can go for.
And the frustration would be the same as a person coming in who isn't a board member. You're not going to get an answer tonight. You'll get an answer in writing, the next board meeting or sometime in between.
Okay. Any further comment on the comment?
I do like Dave's thing at the end though, because if you do think about something after we've passed that, it might be a good thing to have it at the beginning and the end.
I know. If that's something that you want, then we have to change the policy.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
And if
It's
you've
just in the
already
policy
made it,
committee.
you've already taken an action on it, you can't have a discussion after the action. It's like you can't birth the baby after the baby's born.
Can we bring that to
Oh,
the next
well.
policy committee meeting?
Yes, we
If
can.
if it's a regular meeting, you know, add things to the agenda, if things come up, so.
We'll bring it to the policy committee meeting next
Sounds
month.
good.
I'll pull everything that has to do with public comment or board agendas and I'll put it on our next policy committee so we can look at what the rules are and then make a definition as to how we want to move forward. But until then, if there's an item that you want to put on the agenda, we do have a policy that indicates you have to send your item to either the chair or to me.
Okay. Executive session. Motion to executive session for, let's see. Focus, strategy and negotiations with respect to pending litigation inviting Francine Cox, Andrea Peters, Joanna Zillman.
Into executive session for the purpose of strategy and negotiations with respect to pending litigation, inviting Francine Cox, Superintendent of Schools, Andrea Peters, Director of Pupils Mental Services, and Attorney Joanna for Harrison.
Have one more second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, enter executive session at 8:11 PM.
Thank you, Stacy. We're going to allow.
You're welcome. I'm ending the live stream and the recording now.